This is Monday, July 29th. Thought I'd try to do a quick walk through the garden. There's thunder in the background. We might finally have some rain moving in. Finally got some irrigation hooked up front here, as well as weeded and mulched. A few more weeds in the back corner to do. I've got a great deal more taken out. Cucumbers aren't doing the greatest, but I have been picking a few. Okra, still not sure why they ain't producing. They do have blooms trying to set on the top. Every now and then there is a small one, but very few to pick. Bloom. So hopefully in the next week or two, maybe I'll be picking those. Green beans are doing fair, but I have been focusing a little more up front over here. So finally got this section cleared out, mulch strawed, last large bale of straw I had, all the way down to there. Picked tomatoes last night due to knowing the rain wouldn't quite possibly come in. So a large amount of those have been picked and removed from the plants to prevent them from splitting. May have to make a little bit of juice. Mushmelons doing fairly well, especially for as small as the plants are. Such a small area. Remaining plants that way didn't make it. Sweet corn has been getting attacked heavy by the coons. I have picked 8 or 9 ears myself, still a little young. Oh, some beautiful, beautiful blooms. This will be the Korean squash. Still don't remember the name. Well, I must have not been thinking when I was mulching. Look at the size of that weed. There. Much nicer. A couple extra wires to put up somewhere. Sunflowers falling over. I need to get a string on that before it rains, possibly. These sunflowers, however, are looking quite beautiful. Do have irrigation on this side, but I have run out of drip emitters for this type of irrigation, so I've got to get more for it before water can come out. This one fell over, I thought was dead, but it seems to be recovering. Still few more weeds along the fence to remove, especially on the outside. Watermelons, some of them are looking good, some of them aren't. No irrigation on this side either, I've forgotten, or haven't gotten to it. It will be a little more complicated. The asparagus beans I have been picking. They are quite unique. They're this one's 1.5 feet long and growing. Be interesting how tall the plant will get. The blooms are actually quite beautiful. This would make a pretty neat plant to grow in a trellis, even in a front yard. Sunflowers back here are growing nicely. This, of course, is as high as I can reach. So easily 12 feet tall, possibly higher than that even. A few extra tomatoes. I may remove this one. It's not producing any fruit. Marigold. But due to the fence being here, the volunteers from last year, I just left a few to get a few extra tomatoes due to the water we had earlier not setting on a lot all the way up. Tomato down below, no tomatoes anywhere else. So hopefully these will start setting tomatoes. Make sure they pollinate. There's a few on this one, a different breed. And this row does have some finally setting up above. Of course, the originals down below. So there is still hope to get a later tomato crop. These are some later tomatoes, so they are doing a little better and near a tree. So basically the tree was absorbing a large amount of the water. Just got buzzed by some can't think this morning. I just woke up. Hummingbirds. Small ears on some. Kind of a good thing. The coons, of course, have taken down and eaten the larger ones. There is a larger ear. Beans again, all the way down the main path. This is honeydew. A few of those producing, and they're vining. Again, another mushmelon patch. This one, of course, decided to come up the trellis by himself. We'll see how they do. Pineapples, not sure how long they take to ripen. They're still on there. I can feel the temperature changing. I suppose I need to pick zucchini as soon as I get off of here. I've been busy mulching the last 2 days, so of course I have missed them, and this one especially. That looks like a good one to stuff. Again, I'll have to come through and pick eggs off. 2 days of mulching, and they've started laying again. Some beans in a day or two. Volunteer flowers. Never did get these out of the path. I believe that's actually going to bloom purple, a wildflower. Eggplants, apparently I had a glitch in my computer system and these wasn't getting watered. So many of the leaves have fallen off. The grandkids came out and watered my beets for me, so of course the entire bed got drenched. So they are sprouting new leaves with all that water, and with this rain, if we get it, they should shoot out lots of new leaves and start looking nice. Got my sage plant finally out of my shed. Keeping it watered was a booger, but a drip irrigation line coming into the pot now, finally hooked up. Planted some new green onions. I took all the tops off of these. Have not yet got these removed. Leeks. Still got to do some mulching here and weed removal all through there. That's a couple of days of work. There's actually blueberry plants in there somewhere I need to find. Some gooseberries possibly still in there. Onions on the other side needing to be harvested. Swiss chard starting to grow. Found the seed a little late. These flowers I actually planted from some of my seed I saved. Looking very nice, attracting butterflies. There's one now. Miniature hollyhocks I planted, didn't get moved. This is called a pot marigold. Nice small unique kind. Certain insects are repelled by them. Another volunteer plant I'll have to remove because my ginger is underneath it now. So that'll make a nice bouquet of flowers from the house. More volunteers in the path. Lots of butterflies. Spiny cucumbers. The regular cucumbers. A few of them I see I've missed or haven't got picked. I need to. The last little heads of cabbage need to come off and go in the fridge. These peppers, of course, not looking like the seed I ordered, I don't believe. No, this is not a bell pepper. But I would say banana or hot pepper. Same here. Another giant pepper. These are actually my banana peppers. So they all look quite the same actually. So I'm assuming they sold me the same seed as I had for banana peppers. Tomato plant I need to tie up. It got through. These tomatoes are looking quite nice, well above the fence already. Volunteer flower I'll tie over out of the path. More onions I need to get harvested before it rains there. New green onions. As soon as it rains, they should root in. Potato, volunteer, sticking out on the surface. I'll have to dig that or get some mulch on them. They, of course, are 3.5, 4 feet tall. Volunteer tomatoes, almost to the top of my fence that is 6 foot high from the ground where I'm standing above my head. Largest potato plants I've ever grown. Same height as the tomatoes on the other side. A few volunteer beans I'm letting grow since there's a Japanese beetle and another. are eating up my beans. Since the onions will be leaving, I believe they'll coexist with tomatoes. We'll find out. Getting to be another long walkthrough. Bush beans are blooming like crazy, like the pole beans. Another volunteer flower. Again, these are not giant peppers. Some leftovers went in here. Many different kinds. That will be an orange, I believe. There is some purples here. So I am finally getting bell peppers to set on. Watermelons, there is a few watermelons growing. They're going to be late this year. Another sunflower, another in the back. A few turnips growing, as well as peas needing to be picked. Another large sunflower, most likely crossbred between the mammoth and the multiple bloomers. Of course, a volunteer. Cherry tomatoes, haven't been getting those picked. This will be the yellow pear. Quite unique leaves to it. I did finally get irrigation hooked up over here on these. Pole beans, lots of pole beans. They're blooming like crazy and starting to set small beans again. I picked a few. Another nest, probably my cardinal again this year. Gonna have to keep that in mind. Concord grapes, still quite green. Quite a few for such a small plant. This plant has a few. Another melon back here. Some different sunflowers. Short, not the black centers, the yellow center. There's a bumblebee, of course, trying to pollinate, and I'm interfering. But lots of pole beans setting on. A few last ones need picked from the first bunch. They do, however, stick out into the path and have to be tucked in. One more tomato I'm wanting to put in the garden. Volunteer, not sure what kind it is. Not sure what's eating it, but a tomato worm looks like right there. There is a horned tomato worm. We'll exterminate him. Potatoes looking like they need dug. So after the rain, there's one still green. I'll dig some of those and hopefully replant some. Got some young grapevines that'll have to be dug up and put in pots. Another grapevine. This one died all the way back to the ground, so I'm trying to regrow it back up from the ground. I finally have a goji berry blooming. I have been wondering about that. Cannot wait to see and what they look like and taste. Size-wise, I know what they look like. Japanese beetles, of course, on the everything, basically. These are eggplants. They have been getting plenty of water. There's a nice one to eat. These eggplants, I've got to get weeded and mulched. They're in the strawberries. Not doing near as well. More tomatoes. This is the pear yellow, Roma, and San Marzano. This is the size of the Romas. Probably can't tell on here. The San Marzanos are a little bit larger. Not drastic, but some of them are twice the size. Am I forgetting anything? Let's go down here. I got to remove some black raspberry plants from this walkway. Some grapes have ripened. Only a few on this plant, but very, very good flavor. I haven't had grapes since I was a child. I don't like the old store-bought ones. Still waiting on a few more Concords here. And later, of course, another patch working on weeding and got a mulch. Several grapes on this one. So, can't wait to see if they make it and ripen. But yeah, I'll have to reweed this and mulch it. This is asparagus here, young patch. I'll need irrigation on it to get it growing for picking. My wild strawberries, of course, is down here. More asparagus gets planted over there when I get their weeds removed. A few more young grapevines I've got growing. This grape is a dead limb there and a dead limb above the gate there. It died, so I replaced it with a new plant. And about 2 weeks ago, it came back up. So when I get the irrigation hooked up, I will try to move the new plant out to a new location. Get rid of the Japanese beetle and have another grapevine. Another bunch of tomatoes. This is the smaller tomato, Osage orange. Not a fan of a huge amount. I've started chopping out this one. Of course, it got dark on me that evening. Some peppers growing quite nice in this bed. Not a lot on the plants, but the plants are doing good and beginning to bloom. So much more rich soil over here. Volunteer tomato, volunteer tomatoes, volunteer tomatoes. A couple of those I'll have to remove to keep light on the peppers. And some very large tomatoes on this plant. I'll have to remove some of the dead lower limbs on the plants and dying. But I picked more than a dozen large tomatoes off this last night. And due to the raised bed and drainage, it has been producing quite nicely this whole entire rainy spring, as well as these tomatoes did a pretty good. This is the ox heart, not quite as large as they advertise, but pretty nice. Some peanuts that Most likely got planted by a mouse in my pots. But I believe that's my garden for July, I believe 29th, I said earlier. Sorry about the length of this video.